Hello. Hey, Rob. Shruti, hello.
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 Rob, no more boondoggle in Lisbon?
No, back at home.
Well, boondoggle for me, for you to actually do some work.
It was a whirlwind, and then the next morning I woke up and ran to the airport.
I see Pankaj has already joined us. Hi, Pankaj, welcome.
Hi, hi everybody. Yes, very glad to be here.
We'll
I,
just give a
I,
minute or so.
I was just checking if my presentation is with you, or do I need to pull it
Yeah,
up?
I do have your presentation, so I
Okay.
can present it too.
Okay.
If you prefer to present it yourself, in case you want to use pointer while speaking, that is fine too. But I have your presentation and I can run through it also.
No, it's just fine. There's no point. It's not like it's a very simple set of slides, so no problem.
Give a minute more and then start off. Hi, James. So we'll run through the regional summit debrief after the speaker session. That's good, right? Yeah. Okay. Let me share my screen. Are folks able to see the correct screen in presentation mode?
Yeah, looks great.
Yes.
Yep, looks good.
Okay. Okay. So hi folks, welcome to the May OCP Sustainability call. And when we have these monthly calls in order to come together and sort of look at what are the important topics, listen to relevant speaker sessions. We've had a few in the past, and also to see where probably our work streams are in terms of their work. So we'll cover a lot of this today also. For our speaker session today, we have Pankaj Bhatia, who is the Global Director of GHG Protocol at World Resources Institute. I'll give a very short introduction, and then I'll let him, introduce himself in detail. We know that he's worked on a lot of the GHG protocol standardizations and tools in the past, and also on like mitigation strategies, etc., at corporate levels and city accounting levels. So he has a lot of understanding and expertise in these domains which we continuously keep discussing and refer to in our OCP sustainability work. So we are looking forward to understanding from his perspective what GHG protocol has looked at, is looking at, and maybe is about to look at coming up in the next sometime. With that introduction, welcome Pankaj. I'll hand it over to you. I'll basically enhance the slides to go to yours, and you can speak through it. Sorry, one second. I can't actually see the messages, but I can see a notification that there's a message. Oh, okay. I can't see the messages. Okay, so let's go ahead. Yes. Go ahead, Pankaj, and let me know whenever you want me to advance the slides.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. This was somewhat, it came up organically. I don't regularly check my LinkedIn messages, so it was just perhaps somewhat destined that I happened to check, and it's kind of continued. And then I generally, Mrs., I'm not complaining at all, and I'm happy. I don't do meetings in the night. And so I think that was
Wow,
the
seems
best
so
time.
bad. Just
that-
like, wait, are we in business class?
Oh, I think somebody's unmuted once again.
Yeah, no worries.
Go ahead.
And so as I was saying, that it was perhaps meant to happen, and so I accepted. And then just a day before, I realized it is this time. Otherwise, I think I would have perhaps suggested somebody else. But it's in a way good opportunity for me to refresh even my kind of information as I go through some of the slides. The team pulled together some of the slides which I saw first time. So for me also, it was a little bit of a learning. I'm not as expert as much as I used to be. So I would apologize if I'm not able to answer your questions, if they are technical questions. I have had a long journey with the GHG protocol. I started with the GHG protocol at WRI. Now it's almost 25 years back. I never planned that I will be with the GHG protocol this long, but this just happened. And in a way, I left it, I came back, and now it's in a new phase, and I will share some of it. I also don't fully understand yet how much of what I'm going to speak is relevant to the audience or to your focus. So maybe you can guide that a little bit if during the course of Q&A, if suppose there is some specific high-level questions I can address. Next slide, please.
Oh,
Yeah, so I'll try to cover some of these items here. The most important element is that greenhouse gas protocol after 20 years is going through some major updates. And so we'll cover that in some detail. And some of the important services that we provide, GHG protocol support services, I'll cover that also. Next slide, please. Just by way of introduction and a little bit of a background, it's the standard setting role that we have in the greenhouse gas protocol focuses to help companies, cities, and countries. We do standards for cities and countries also to measure, manage, and report GHG emissions from their operations and value chain. So that's our typical approach, not just operations, but also value chains for all these three entities, companies, cities, and countries. We also provide some guidance on how companies can track their progress towards emission mitigation targets. It's become the most widely used standard for companies in the world now, and it is the foundation of all the corporate reporting programs and target setting programs in the world now. And so in a way that kind of places not just some significance, but also perhaps some major responsibility in the updates process that we do it right when we don't cause any disruption in the marketplace. We develop our standards through a multi-stakeholder process that includes a representation from business, academia, governments, NGOs, and civil society. Next slide, please.
yes. I'm going to quickly do one thing because it's overlaid on the, Open Compute Project format. That is why the background is maybe hard, making it hard to read. I'm just going to quickly unshare and then share again.
No problem.
And I think that will.
Yeah, well, while you're doing this, so the initiative was convened in 1998. WRI, World Resources Institute, a research think tank based in Washington, D.C., and WBCSG, World Business Council based in Geneva. The two groups that came together to convene this in 1998. I joined the GHG protocol work as a member of the first steering committee that was set up at that time. And then in 2001, I came back to GHG protocol as WRI staff member. Thank you. We can go to the next slide. So again, just a reflection on the history. Just quick snapshot here. We have done several major standards. Perhaps here it's 8 to 10 that we have in the list. The Corporate Accounting and Reporting Standard published in 2004 is the flagship standard for business, which is the one that continues to be used by all the major reporting programs regulators and voluntary programs, and which is the one that will be updated. Then also Scope 3 standard, which was published in 2011, will be updated. And Scope 2 guidance, which was published in 2015, will be updated. We've done 2 standards for countries that you see at the bottom: policy and action standard, mitigation goal standard. And we've done 1 standard for cities, the global protocol for community scale greenhouse gas emissions. Right now, we are working on a new standard for the land sector companies, the forest sector companies, agriculture sector companies, and this is expected to be completed by 2024. Next slide, please. Next slide. So, as I was saying earlier, and this is perhaps the most relevant part, and maybe with the Open Compute project, there's some relevant points that could be important for your consideration and your participation in this process. We are now engaged in the updates of the GHG protocol corporate standards. So these are the 4 that are listed here. We conducted a global survey that resulted in a lot of feedback and also many proposals we received on the changes we need to make. So, overall, I think the significance here is
I'm
that
12 minutes late for it, actually.
the response was quite good. Generally, we knew that there are some issues, so we were expecting responses, but there are some new ideas also that came through this feedback, and that I think has resulted in a 4th area, which is not yet published in the GHG protocol. It is called market-based accounting. So this will be a new area of work that we will work on and publish a standard or guidance on it. The next slide, please. So what we envision that these are the 4 publications: 3rd edition of the Corporate Accounting and Reporting Standard, 2nd edition of Scope 2 guidance, 2nd edition of Scope 3 standard, and then a new guidance on accounting and reporting for actions and market instruments in corporate GHG reporting. The title is yet to be decided, and it kind of focuses on what is typically called market instruments or market-based accounting instruments. There is a similar approach already embedded within the Scope 2 guidance, and companies who use Scope 2 are very familiar with this market-based accounting approach. Next slide, please. So we are right now in the 2nd bucket of this process and timeline. We're finalizing the work plans and establishing new governing bodies. The update process will start in the middle of 2024 and then continue until the end of 2025. We hope to complete the updates by early 2026 and have the final standards published in 2026. Next slide, please. This is our new governance structure. GHG protocol normally has a multi-stakeholder process that is convened with a given body of work. So given standard, as we start the work, we convene a process that somewhat includes a similar structure, except that it is dissolved after the publication is done. So there was never a permanent body that GHG protocol had. Now, since the recent adoption by the US Securities and Exchange Commission and California Resources Board, European regulators, and others, it was seen as very important that we have a more permanent governance structure. So what we are doing right now, we are establishing a global steering committee. It's like a board of GHG protocol that will be permanent, of course, with the members appointed for a certain period of time, and new members then appointed after that period is over. Independent Standards Board will be our new standard setting body, which is going to be the decision-making body on our standards. So the final decisions will be done by this Independent Standards Board. The authority of this body will be to make decisions on the standards, and the steering committee will have the authority to decide on the process, but the technical decisions will be done by the Independent Standards Board. We will have technical working groups for very likely for each of the 4 work streams. So we will have corporate accounting technical working group, scope 2, scope 3, and market-based accounting technical working groups. And these groups, they work closely with the secretariat in drafting the text. And so this is where generally the most of the work is done in technical working groups along with the secretariat. Once we have completed this process, at a certain point of time, there is a public comment period, and there are review groups and pilot testing, and those will come in a sequence once we have completed a stage of the drafting process that is ready for public comments and pilot testing. So this is going to be our new governance structure. Next slide, please. So support services, next slide, please. Now, in the way GHG protocol is organizationally established right now is in 3 areas, broadly speaking. One is the standards area. The standards area is what I've just presented, where we are looking at updating our major corporate suite of standards. Then the second area is support services. And third area is ecosystem engagement. Ecosystem engagement is where we collaborate very closely with some of the major users of GHG protocol, including Science Based Target Setting Initiative, CDP, California Resources Board, SEC, ISSB, and like that, many others, GRI, ISO. And so those are the 3 pillars, so to speak, in GHG protocol. And support services as a pillar does a very important job, particularly after the standards are published and they are in the marketplace. So to assist in the implementation of those standards, to facilitate those implementation through various services here, as you can see. One of the very important services, guidance and tools that help companies to adopt and implement GHG protocol standards. So this will be expanded in the new phase of GHG protocol. We will strengthen a current service, which is called Built on Mark service. It will be expanded, scaled up, and also professionalized further and kind of becomes a vehicle, a catalyst for third-party tools providers to build tools based on the GHG protocol standards and go through a process of review, technical review and adoption, and then they are offered to the market. We also do a number of e-learning programs, training programs, and so that also is currently going through revamp and scale up. And then the third area is technical support, which is where it's like a technical helpline, so to speak, FAQs and email support for users as they implement the standards to answer their questions or to guide them to the relevant resources within the GHG protocol. Next slide, please. Now, this is also, as everything else is going through a revamp and professionalization. So this is also right now going through a build out of its strategy, a new strategy that then will be launched in 2025. And at the bottom, you already see the GHG protocol standards, updates, process, and timeline, which I already presented. Next slide, please. Right, so that's a quick snapshot. I really didn't get into much of the technical details. I think the idea here was just to give you a sense of what's happening with the GHG protocol, what's coming in the next few months and longer timeline. And perhaps there are some questions that I can try answer now.
Yeah, I apologize a little bit late, but did you talk about the timeline at all?
Yes, we can go back to one of the slides. Yes, no, that slide is fine that we were just showing.
This one?
This one, this one.
Okay. Thank you. So 2026. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So can I dig a little bit more into this? So 2026, we are expecting to have a second, like an updated version of both Scope 2 and Scope 3 guidelines, right? Like that is, the Scope 2 guideline and Scope 3 standard guideline.
Yes. Scope 2, Scope 3, and corporate accounting and reporting standard, all 3 of them. and also a new area of work, new work stream, market-based accounting.
Okay.
Four of them, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about, like at a high level, what is changing or what aspects are changing in the Scope 2, Scope 3 guidelines here? Like where
Okay,
should we
that's
expect?
I think, yeah. No, I'm assuming perhaps you're familiar with the webinars we did. They are also on the website. We published survey summaries, the feedback that we received. Hundreds of stakeholders gave written feedback, and we've analyzed them. And some of the messages that at a high level I can say, which is very important for the market also, I think, to know as companies continue to do their inventories, make investments, that they need to know that are there major changes coming that will maybe make our investments less useful, or can we make their investments now even more useful? And so in the corporate accounting and reporting standard, the feedback has generally been positive and has confirmed the overall framework, the structure, all the different accounting steps. We have not seen any major change, except one area where we are seeing some push to revise the corporate accounting and reporting standard, which is around consolidation approaches, which is how a company consolidates its accounts. So there is a financial accounting and consolidation according to financial accounting, but in GSG protocol, the consolidation is given, three options are given for consolidation. And some of the feedback is raising I think primarily two questions or three questions. One, should GSG protocol further standardize instead of three options? Should there be a single option? That I think is one major question. Second is the financial control option, should that be modified into just control and not financial control? And what that means is that companies should actually consolidate based on what they control financially and what they also control based on operational control. So then it's kind of combining operational and financial control, this idea. And that will automatically take away then make them into one single option. And I think the third question is around how do you account for minority share, which presently I think in financial control perhaps is not done in such a detail that companies are looking for. And there is some feedback that perhaps some minority share holdings are left out in the inventory, and maybe that should be looked into. And so I think those are refinements and further standardization, but there's no kind of a flaw identified in corporate accounting and reporting framework that has been a problem for companies. So it's a standardization. In Scope 2, there's been a lot of feedback on the application of location-based and market-based accounting. Mm-hmm. Market-based accounting, the concern has been that it's not been applied in a credible way in some jurisdictions. In jurisdictions, there's been double counting of recs. And so there's been some feedback on how do you strengthen the market-based accounting, how to make it tighter and more effective in its enforcement of its criteria. So I think we will see some strengthening in the market-based accounting in Scope 2. And then some new technologies, hydrogen, for example, has not been addressed. So we will see that. In Scope 3, generally speaking, the feedback has been good. 15 categories, they're good. There's no 16 category identified. And 15 categories, really the focus, I think, globally is shifting on helping companies to implement them successfully. So new guidance, more guidance on how companies can successfully implement, whether maybe some guidance on use of thresholds, how should company decide what is most relevant. Relevance is a principle in JGP from a material standpoint, emissions quantity standpoint, and also from the influence standpoint. And so again, I think Scope 3 also will see a lot of refinements, new information, new guidance. And there may be also some additional work on Scope 3, category 15, financed emissions category, which is where PCAF, one of our partner initiative, has done some very good work. And we will be looking at its guidance and may bring some of it into the GSG protocol.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't know, folks feel free to either raise hand or put the question in chat if you have a question. One additional thing that I was going to ask on this slide was the other part that is mentioned here, the accounting and reporting for actions and market instruments. Is that guidance around, say, renewable instruments and other kind of contracts, etc., purchased from the market? Is that what this covers?
We don't know. We will have to go through our process. It's one of the most tricky topic, market-based accounting. Contractual instruments are already provided in scope 2 market-based accounting. And so that is one type, but this will be very comprehensively looking at different types of market instruments and to look at both in streamlining those and ensuring that there is consistency in the conceptual framing and the application, and also how companies can quantify them. GG protocol will only focus on quantification and reporting of these instruments and not on whether they should be used in target setting or not, because that is outside our preview. So how do you quantify these different types of market instruments, and how do you report them in your inventory outside the scopes? And I think also then to ensure alignment in this guidance between this guidance and the scope 2 market-based accounting guidance.
Awesome. Yes, Bijan, go ahead.
Off the top of your head, Pankaj, do you know the license type of this specification? Because the reason why I'm asking is because if we want to refer to it, or if you want to, maybe even kind of highlight certain sections of this text or something like that in our work, is that possible?
Oh yes, it is possible, and it has been used previously by different initiatives, even copying relevant chapters and text. The only reference we seek is that for two things. One, we are kept informed, and second, that there is a reference given to the original. Sure. Yeah.
Attribution. Okay.
Yeah. When first time the corporate accounting standard was published in 2004, the US EPA started a program, and they borrowed completely the chapters from the corporate accounting standard, and they published their own protocol. That was fine. They just highlighted the new text from their program and the GHP text by just using some formatting. ISSB does just direct references to relevant standards in their standard. So they just refer the whole standard in a way. They don't even have to then publish long documents. And they have a shorter version of their standard, but then there's a body of work in the GHP that is directly referenced. So yeah, there are different models, and so it can be used. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we wouldn't republish anything here, but we could, definitely make references to it, and it's easier if we don't have to have. If there's, some other organizations, they license all of the text copyrights and everything like that, so you can't even call out without any kind of, creating some sort of, co-working agreement or something like that. So that was the kind of the basis for my question. Thanks.
We don't need to do that. There's quite a lot of work that we do not have yet still team big enough that we can manage that. So we just, if somebody will seek permission, we give that by email and ask for referencing, proper full referencing. That's all.
Perfect. Thank you.
Jim, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussion here about circularity and recertified products and how that impacts embodied carbon, scope 3 accounting. There's some desire from some customers to amortize the embodied carbon over, say, the first and second user of a device. Was that some of the feedback you guys got in some of the
Definitely.
Scope?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, we did. And if and so in that respect, we would appreciate, even though the formal process is closed in terms of survey and proposals, but we still continue to receive. So if you have any such ideas, examples, even case studies, you can send those. We continue to maintain that database. But yeah, at a conceptual level, it will be addressed in scope 3.
Fantastic.
Pankaj, is there a link or something through which we can provide ideas or feedback regarding, because I know specifically for circularity and how it is going to be how the carbon will be addressed. I know folks, JM and others who would want to give feedback.
Of course. So the person who was coordinating with you, I think Sarah Huckins, or Brianna, right? One of
Brianna. Yeah,
you can
Brianna.
send an email, and I think so. Sarah Huckins is the one who manages the website, and perhaps there is still that link, or we can provide you an email ID for you to send those ideas and proposals.
Okay, I will get it through Brianna then. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be good to get an update along this process, so we don't have to wait until 2026.
Yeah. And this is the difficult part of the GHG protocol, where so many stakeholders are involved. The stakes are seen as very high, that it just makes the decision-making a little more cumbersome. But then at the end of it, we think it is important to follow the process now and to avoid the optics of making decisions in some kind of a black box or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Hello,
Divya, go
Pankaj.
ahead.
Yeah. Divya from Intel. I had a question around maybe I didn't quite follow your the updates and the changes that you mentioned. You know, in terms of the higher order bit of the changes that's coming up, is there, you know, I've followed a little bit of the academic work, which is on sort of financial accounting along with carbon accounting. Is that what you mentioned that's coming in this round, which is to make financial and carbon accounting sort of go hand in hand?
Well, very interesting question, and maybe this may be
Because I think that's a much bigger, broader than, you know, just the sort of, hey, how do you do scope 2 and how do you do scope 3 and the guidance around sort of what GHG protocol does. But this is a sort of a higher order bit to how you do accounting at a corporate level, which is, you know, which is sort of this line of academic work that's been happening at Harvard and some other places, I believe. So could you expand if you can?
Yes. So in the GHG protocol, when we did the first edition, which we don't even see the picture here, but in the history chart I mentioned, in 2001 we published the first edition. So that publication was entirely based on financial accounting framework, how the balance sheets are structured for financial accounting. So there is a top portion in the balance sheet which is based on control entities, and there is a bottom portion which is based on equity share owned entities. And so we kind of had that framework, and it really meant companies were required to report two inventories, one based on control and one based on equity. And then in 2004 edition, we moved away and we kept financial control as one option and equity as the other option. So one might say, oh, okay, if you are completely aligned with financial accounting, you want both of them in a single kind of a table. So we broke that table into two separate approaches. So this is one maybe divergence from financial accounting. But now the innovations that we are seeing are somewhat different kinds, and we will be looking at all of those innovations. ISSB and European regulators, what they did, for carbon accounting, I think they are trying to expand the definition of control beyond financial control. So they basically want, from a decision-making perspective also, that for a given company, they should account for everything that they control in the marketplace, whether it is financially or through operational control, and without double counting. In many cases, when a company controls financially, they also control the operation. But in some cases, they do not have financial control, but they do control the operation. So this is an innovation that we want to study and see if that is uniquely suited for carbon accounting compared to financial accounting. In financial accounting, you don't have operational control. You only have financial control and equity. So yeah, but there may be some other innovations also that we may study in this process. And this, you are right, this is a higher order decision that will impact then everything down the line, you know, in terms of the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 emissions.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm just waiting to see before we wrap up if somebody else has any outstanding question.
I'll jump in. One thing we've seen with some of the large data center companies is this focus on 24/7 accounting for scope 2. So hourly matching and a much nearer geography. Do you think that will be further clarified or codified through this process? You're on mute, Pankaj.
Sorry, yeah, it will be. If you go to GHG Protocol's website, there's another thing maybe Shruti, you can circulate. There's all different types of proposals. And I think there's several proposals on 24/7 approach and how to integrate that into scope 2. So yes, it will definitely be one of the new approaches added into the GHG Protocol scope 2.
So these proposals are already on the GHG protocol website, so I can send it out.
Yeah, I have a bunch of links, Shruti, that I can help you if it's not immediately obvious to you when you go to look for it. The other question I had.
So
is,
I think one of the things, I'm glad you have looked into the proposals. That one of the things you could consider reading them, if you think from your open compute project perspective, there's certain things that are missing in the ideas or any other suggestion you would want to send it to us, then write to us, tell us.
Right. The other thing I wanted to ask, and I know you can't, you don't have a crystal ball, but based on when you've released updates in the past, like how long does it take for those to take a hold, like at CDP, at SBTI, other organizations that, have built upon the GHG protocol?
Yeah, you're asking very good questions. And this is one of the questions that we are asking in our interviews for the steering committee and ISP members, that what our stakeholders think how we should approach it. And I think that one of the things we are considering now is to give a transition period. Again, this will be validated through our new governing bodies. In the past, we did not have any transition period. We published like in 2004, and CDP actually was taking birth around that time. And within a year, they just were able to translate that into CDP questionnaire. There was also not so many initiatives like we have now. So ISSB and others, all of them have their own processes. So they will need time. And so yeah, means we will probably have to have some discussions with them. Maybe we give some transition period and keep the old standard still up on the website for some time while the new standard is getting implemented by these other programs and initiatives.
Yeah, and I know this is totally out of your hands, but this is such a critical decade from the point of view of reducing the future impacts of climate change. So the faster we can do things, the better. But I understand also that it's a difficult process with many, many stakeholders. So thank you for coming and talking to us. And also, deep bow and gratitude that this, everything that exists so far and has gotten us to this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I also know we are over time for Pankaj's slot. Maybe we can quickly take one last question for a minute and then sort of let him go. Oh,
I'm fine. You have two. I thought you had two questions, but I'm fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I know there is Eric and Vijan's hand was raised. Eric, I just see your hand go down right now. It's up here again. Eric, do you want to go ahead quickly?
Yeah, so I'll do it. Yeah, so I try to keep it brief, or hopefully the answer is brief. Pankaj, can you just talk a little bit to the practicalities of that slide where you have the technical working group and the secretariat and steering committee and so on? Those technical working groups, is this 10 people working for 3 months, or is this 100 people working for 9 months? What what kind of scope and how is it organized within those technical work groups generally?
So we are finalizing the terms of references for the 3 groups, technical, ISB, and steering committee. The technical working groups, if I remember correctly, will be 20 to 25 members per group. So 4 groups will have about 80 to 100 members. And that is generally the size also, previously also. And the size will be somewhat kept flexible during the course of the work. If there are new topics and we don't have those experts in our technical working groups, it's now being, the applications are invited on a rolling basis. So that means we will continue to receive applications and we will see the size can vary. Sometimes it may go even higher over time. They will, the technical working groups will work now for at least 1 year, 12 months.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for outlining that.
Go ahead, Vijay.
Sure. One thing that's coming up more frequently is this avoided emissions, or what they're calling Scope 4. So is that something that I don't see it on your website, but I mean, I do see there's a mitigation goal standard. I don't know if these two things are orthogonal or congruent, or what, or if that's even in your scope.
It is it is not the name. The name we maybe fully disagree right now, at least the Secretariat team experts. Now we'll see what happens in the process. But the name we reject, Scope 4, because the original Scopes framework was designed as an inventory framework. Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 are all inventory concepts. And it's kind of completes the life cycle accounting, those who know life cycle accounting. So there's nothing left outside in terms of capturing inventory impacts outside the life cycle accounting framework. And so it could be misleading to call Scope 4 when Scope 1
So Scope 4, I get what you're saying. Scope 4 would be like all the oxygen on Earth instead of
and it could maybe even encourage something that we don't encourage, which is netting. So if you have Scope 4, then you could see companies are combining all 4 scopes, and we think that netting must not be done. For avoided emissions must be reported. We actually want to encourage it, and the 4th work stream that you see here will provide guidance and drive this accounting also much more than we have done in the past. But whether to call it Scope 4 or whether to just maintain it as separate set of categories, it's like a ledger. You have a ledger. So a company reports its Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3, and then there's a column or several columns in the ledger for different types of market instruments, and avoided emissions is one of them. So we think that is our job, to maintain that transparency in the ledger. Everything is reported. How to quantify them correctly, we provide standards and guidance how to report them, but not how to net them. Netting is what we want to avoid.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pankaj, and thank you for also going over time and answering everybody's question and joining us today. I know you are in EST time, so adjusting with our session's time slot.
Yeah, I ordered pizza for today, so I'm actually all set now.
Perfect. We also really enjoyed your session. We could join you for the pizza also if you like. No, I'm kidding. But yes, thanks a lot. Yes, we really appreciate your session. Really enjoyed it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And we will here continue. We have one short thing more, which is we were going to do a debrief of the regional summit. So some of us did not get to attend, but a few of us did attend, and JM on our behalf was going to run through a debrief of the experience and what it covered, etc., especially from the sustainability aspect.
All right, you guys can see what I'm sharing?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, so I had a blast going to Lisbon for the OCP Regional Summit. This was my first time at the Regional Summit. But if you go to the OCP website, it has a little, by the numbers, 725 attendees. So it's obviously much smaller than the Global Summit, but it was very well done. I thought all the sessions were really good. The Expo Hall was interesting, as wasn't as big as obviously the Global Summit, but 315 organizations. There's some really nice pictures here on the website from the course here, me drinking a beer here, all kinds of fun pictures here at the website. So I want to kind of cover, there was obviously a huge focus on sustainability, and in the keynote, they talked about the OCP and iMasons joint partnerships. You can see OCP did write a blog about that, but there was also another session, so I encourage folks to check out that for the collaboration on embodied carbon and reporting. This panel was also very good. Miranda, who's executive director of the iMasons Climate Accord, was on this panel of demystifying European sustainability directives. I thought that was another really, really good one in the keynote track on sustainability, and they had a bunch of very good discussion around that topic. OVH presented on immersion cooling and sustainability and data center locations and building. So again, a ton of sustainability focus in the keynotes. Intel presented, bringing AI everywhere, talking about the, basically the challenges that we're going to have for AI. And that was obviously a huge theme. If you look, I didn't put it on this slide, but on the Meta keynote, they have some slides about, basically how big these AI clusters are going to be, and projected something crazy like, 10x bigger clusters, by I think like 2028 or something like that, which, as you guys know, Meta has like 350,000 H100s, and so $30 billion for the GPUs or something like that. So 10 times that is pretty mind-blowing. I don't think anybody's really ready for that kind of scale. So it is going to be a topic that's going to be very near and dear to our hearts here in the next couple of years. We did, I mentioned that collaboration between iMasons and OCP was highlighted again in the keynote and also the track, but read the blog if you want to know what that's all about. But the team did kind of meet up. We had like an in-person sustainability workshop and meetup, and there was a lot of discussion around the carbon accounting and reporting and scope, helping vendors for scope 3. There was a lot of feedback on the challenges for companies, basically, and there was another really good presentation by Cloudflare in the sustainability track about the same topic, which is basically trying to get good information from the vendors to accurately report scope 3. And we know it's very challenging for a lot of the downstream components that aren't accurately reported or don't have good life cycle assessments. So there was a lot of focus on how do we help them? How do we, from OCP and iMasons and the joint collaboration, release a bunch of guidance on life cycle assessments for ICT, for different type of component types. And obviously there was a bunch of work streams going on in OCP to solve this. So again, this meeting is one where we will, review all those things that are going on. Shruti, was there anything I missed in that in-person workshop?
In terms of the carbon disclosure workshop, I think, you covered that. We discussed the key goals. We also maybe shortly discussed that once we have some kind of a disclosure form, we basically want to approach all the other pillars under OCP that work on the specification of the different components and get them acquainted with what is this disclosure form, so that they can maybe either refer to this, etc., when they are creating further like future device specs. So that's also one approach discussion that we had, that how this would actually sort of reach out to other folks also.
And I think we just heard from Pankaj that white papers and case studies for stuff like carbon accounting and circularity is encouraged, and we should be working on those through OCP to basically, even though there is not the official guidance yet, we should be working on what we think is the right thing and publish it, and then that will get feedback integrated into the standards. And so I think that's super important, that the work that we're doing there on embodied carbon reporting and circularity, it's all going to come full circle. And that was kind of this key themes. I mean, I was also really impressed in the sustainability spectrum of immersion cooling, cold plate. We have sustainable data center design, carbon capture. We have circularity, life cycle assessments, huge breadth of just topics in the sustainability spectrum, building data centers. It's just energy efficiency, runtime, modulation of that. So there was a ton of cool tracks. Obviously, the whole point of open compute. Oh, Bishan, yeah, you want to chime in here?
Yeah, I put a Trojan horse in one of the keynotes
Ooh.
that might pay off really big for this group. And so there was a keynote given by Cadence, and the topic was digital twins. And so it's like a 1 or 2 second soundbite, but basically he points out that if we can get the carbon labeling all right, then we can use them in this digital twins emerging standard, or whatever our vision is going to be for this, to have something tangible that we can use in, I don't know, data center management systems, or other types of carbon management systems. But so the idea would be that you can collect not only the operational data that you need whenever you build something, a component or whatever, then you can design it into a data center, and then it has all the intrinsic properties that you can report the amount of carbon that was embedded in it or whatever, and then whatever operational carbon states are that it transitions through. So eventually this could be huge, but he mentioned it really quickly and it went so
Yeah, this is another really, really good keynote. So yeah, again, I just encourage folks. It's very easy to find the slides and the videos here for the keynotes. You just click the YouTube link and everything. Oh yeah, just for everybody, just go to the playlist on YouTube and watch all the keynotes. I thought it was very good. I spent my time on Thursday morning in the security track, and that I thought was absolutely excellent. So I spent a lot of time talking to Eric from Microsoft and Jeff from Google and the folks from IOActive and just about doing OCP Safe. So there's 3 major OCP security projects that are going to impact sustainability, especially on the reuse and circularity spectrum. So OCP Lock is a proposal by Microsoft, Kioxia, Samsung, Solidigm. And the idea of Lock is this layered open source key management block, which will be this layered open source cryptographic key management. So this will be an IP block that goes along with Glyptra and basically sits alongside so that you can trust cryptographic erase better in the drives, because they'll basically easily pass the audits because they'll have this third-party IP block that is open source. And this is really important because if we can fully embrace crypto erase, especially for storage devices, then everybody can trust that the standardization methods for the crypto erase work, and we can reuse the drives instead of shred them. So this is going to be huge. And they've said the 0.5 spec is coming here sometime in the middle of the year, and it's going to be done through the Chips Alliance, the same that was done with Glyptra. Glyptra roadmap was, so the big news was Glyptra 1.0 is released. So folks that are designing ASICs and hardware and silicon can integrate Glyptra as a hardware root of trust. And again, this is just huge for any of this modularity and reuse. You need this attestation and trust between components, the supply chain and management and trust, and this attestation. And so, yeah, anybody who's designing chips will want to put that in. And then OCP Safe, it was really great because I talked to some of the companies doing these audits for, and there was a presentation by IOActive. They actually went through one of these NVMe SSD audits and basically showing that, they found on the first audit with some of these companies 20 to 30 vulnerabilities in the code. And so, this OCP Safe is just absolutely massive, because the idea for us is to have, especially for the storage devices, we wrote the media sanitization white paper, 2 years ago. And this OCP Safe was one of the key missing components to that. So now we can have this open source third-party firmware audit and crypto erase and sanitize and key wrapping and key management are all things that are covered in that audit. So then you can be sure that these drives are actually doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing when they are saying they're erasing the data and stuff like that. So I just thought this is a huge step in the right direction. I've been, asking for this kind of stuff for a couple of years now from the security team, and they have delivered. So yeah, again, huge breadth of sustainability tracks. The security track was great. I thought all the keynotes were fantastic. The beer was delicious. What else?
And just very short note on, when JM was talking about the security lock and Calyptra initiatives. We also had Brian come in as a speaker earlier, and he was also describing how, the sanitization process, etc., can be at least actually that was the discussion that sort of came up during his presentation of what is lock and what is Calyptra, is that if lock can also be used to verify the actual sanitization or the firmware erase that is going on. So that will be another aspect that can be used to be, that can be verified during this process. And then that gives the users more confidence. But yeah, if we're remembering folks who were present during that session. Go ahead.
Microsoft's keynote was great, Brian. Talked about quantum safe crypto and all kinds of, trusted computing and this huge push to confidential computing and how that's going to, play in OCP. And it's all coming full circle. Security is needed for circularity, and sustainability is needed for all this other data center growth. And it's great to see all these different areas. So.
Yep. Yes. And thank you so much, JM, for putting together the concise debrief for us. I'll end with just showing one particular announcement, and I hope are you able to see the slide? I don't know what you're able to see.
Yep.
Yes, okay. Yeah, so if you're able to see the slide, I just wanted to call out one particular item from our power telemetry workstream. Next week, their regular workstream slot, which is on Thursdays, it'll be May 16th, 10 to 11 a.m. That's their regular slot. They have a first draft of the sustainability power profile, and they would like to do a review with a larger group. So I encourage, multiple folks, whoever is interested in seeing the first draft of the sustainability power profile, to please try and join this timing. Hopefully you already have the calendar invite for it. If you don't, you can drop me a note, but I will also put the Zoom link in the meeting minute notes from today. Yes, and I think that is all that we had for today. Is there anything anyone wants to bring up, say anything before we call it an evening?
What's next?
Yes, absolutely. Watch the videos of the keynote. What's next? Actually, on that note, if there are particular speakers that you have in mind that you feel like it will be advantageous to bring them into this sustainability community and listen about what they are doing, feel free to let me, Eric, or Alex know, and we'll sort of try to, bring them in. So yes, thank you for asking what's next.
Yeah, actually, one of the things I was thinking about, Sammy from Intel had the great presentation on the infrastructure utilization efficiency. And I just thought, these are awesome topics we should be releasing white papers about for the OCP Sustainability Project. Because we have these, the final standards and stuff, and we should be, again, that was a really good report out for me of understanding what they've been doing in that work group. And it's going to be huge to be able to start reporting that kind of stuff. So we should be, yeah.
Yeah, and that will be put out as a white paper also. The timing of the regional summit was such that they did the presentation before the white paper, but yes, they will be doing that working. Okay, awesome, folks. It was very nice seeing you all. I hope you found the session useful. And like I said, if there are further speakers in mind, please reach out to us. I will see you folks in other work streams.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye.